Hello and welcome to another episode of Varied Views, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we have a very special guest with us. Her name is Aurora, a very beautiful transgender woman here to share her story. We'll be diving into her personal journey, the challenges she faced, the support she found along the way, and what inclusivity really means in everyday life. We'll also touch on how society can create better representation and understanding of the transgender community. This conversation promises to be both eye-opening and inspiring. Please watch our video till the end and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. So let's get straight into it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So how do we pronounce your name?
So it's Aurora, Rose, Sadie.
Aurora Rose Sadie. I literally tried to look it up. Nothing comes up on the socials.
No, usually because with the socials, it's Aurora, so it's AUROUR, Aurora _ deal, and that's my Instagram, and then Facebook is just Aurora Rose Selena Sadie. So it really just depends on the platform. Those are the main ones that I use.
Okay. So what do you do?
So currently, I just finished doing a Cambridge syllabus called A levels or AS, what you could call it. It's basically like your 13th year of schooling. And it's so basically I did the subjects like English, biology, business, and psychology. And then from there, I want to do like musical theatre, dancing and acting and singing. I did audition for this school in America called AMDA, and it's like an American school for the dramatic arts. So I did get a scholarship for that. So I'm really excited to hopefully go sometime next year to New York.
Awesome. Yeah, because the other day when I called you like, dance, call me after 7.
Yeah, because usually I do dancing almost like every day until like sometimes 7, sometimes 8. Because right now we're preparing for like a show. It's our like, annual show that we do like once a year. So we kind of have like more than 1 hour, sometimes 2 or 3 hours, depending on when I finish like my usual day. I just go straight to dancing and finish sometimes at 8.
Right.
Which is really hectic.
Sure. Oh, yes, you actually invited me. Is that the show that you said I should come through?
Yes, it's on the 16th of November.
Yeah, I'll make it. I'll definitely make it. So how was it when you were growing up, man?
So I think growing up for me was very different because obviously I'm adopted by a white family, the Sadie family, and then I have my dad Michael who passed away in 2021, and then my mom Glenn, and I think being adopted is a very different thing that a lot of people don't like acknowledge or take into account when obviously encountering me and interactions with me. So I think growing up was difficult because I, on the one hand, had like a religious Catholic background, which was something that was a big aspect of my life. And then I also had the different, what I would call it, like the different situations that I would get into when being adopted, like people kind of not understanding what the definition of being adopted is and having very weird and strange and sometimes very passive-aggressive encounters. So it was very difficult to kind of navigate that, especially when I was like in the age ranges of like 5 until like 9, because a lot of people didn't understand it. But I think my mom, from a very early age, kind of like educated me on what being adopted is. So if I did have those encounters, I kind of knew how to approach them and what to say and how to kind of manage and sort the situation out better.
Oh, okay. And then, I mean, because obviously you're black and you're adopted by like a white family. Did that play part like in your childhood?
Yes, I think it did play a part because I think a lot of, even like the way I talk is very different. Like I haven't really learned many African languages. It is something that I do want to do, but I think I've kind of like studied more, like my second language at school was like French, and I did all of those different languages and try to learn different other languages, and especially like my dad's heritage, he's Lebanese, so that's something that I really hold close to my heart because it's like a part of me, even though I've like inherited it from him. You know. And that's something I really admire because there's like a community in South Africa that's like very small with the Lebanese and Arabic community, and I think it's nice to kind of feel a sense of love and support from people that usually don't share the exact same like aspirations and goals, but also just acknowledge who you are and understand and just really support you.
Yeah. And speaking about that, so when did you start realizing that you had like an identity, an awkward identity?
I think from a very early ages, even like from like 5, I think for me, I used to be a very different kid, and I wasn't your basic average male or heterosexual male because I just didn't see the world like that. I think the lens that I viewed the world was very different from a normal male. And going into certain aspects of my life, I think it was difficult because like I didn't gravitate towards soccer or tracks or playing with those and like superheroes until I was maybe like only by a later stage I kind of identified those things and kind of could appreciate them, but just from a different aspect.
Yeah. What did you find yourself gravitating towards?
I think Barbies and like doll houses and all of those things.
And
like
didn't it seem wrong?
It didn't necessarily seem wrong. It almost felt right to do because from a very early age, I remember there was an experience that I'll never forget with my mom. I said to her, Mom, she was telling me that when you grow up, you'll become a dad and have kids. And I said, well, why can't I be the mom? And why can't I carry the kids? I want to do that. I want to be a girl. And I think it was something that I was only like 4 or 5 when I said that to her. And it was something that she acknowledged but didn't really acknowledge.
Okay.
And then I think when I kind of started turning like 13 and 14, that's when I really acknowledged my identity. And I was
like, what was that moment? Like, what? So, like, I mean, obviously, 5 to 9 years, you're not sure what's going on at this point. You're just like, okay, I think I'm a little bit different because I look like this boy, but I want to play with these things and boys. So you're just like confused, I can imagine, at this point. When did you start saying, like, okay, this is what is going on here?
I think, especially in lockdown, that was a huge turning point for me. Obviously, I went to a very small school, so everyone knew everyone in everyone's situation and traumas. And for me, I was labeled as like the gay kid of the school, which was difficult because it put me in a stereotype that I knew I didn't fit into, and and I kind of had to acknowledge that and kind of be exactly what they wanted. Or
like, what do you mean by that?
So I just felt like if everyone was just calling me that, then I should just be that. And then it got to a point when I tried to reverse that, and I started dressing very masculine and try to get with a lot of girls because I just thought maybe if I don't do what they want me to do, it'll change how I feel, and I won't be transgender, and I won't be different, and I won't be put into these awkward situations of feeling like I'm not as normal as everyone else is, and I'm just different. And I think it was difficult because on the one hand, I didn't want to do those things, but I felt pressured to do those things.
So you knew that you are more a female internally, but you're like, okay, but your family, I'm thinking, how did your family receive you? Like, because obviously, like you're saying, from 5 to 9, they're raising you, they're seeing this. You tell them that you're saying they acknowledged it, but not really. But at this point, later on, they can see definitely this is who you are because you spent more time with them.
I think it was difficult because a lot of my cousins were more into it than I think my like dad and mom, because they were like very Catholic.
Yes,
Most of my family are, but I think they would kind of recognize these situations that I get myself into where, for example, like when we would have like family get-togethers, I would like dress up in my cousin's clothing, and then they would notice and they wouldn't say too much, but then they would kind of acknowledge
like girl clothing.
Yeah. And then I just stopped. And it was weird because I would do things behind closed doors. Like I would do my makeup and use my mom's makeup and all of those things. And then when she would get home, I'd have to like wipe it all off. And it was weird because it felt like by wiping it off and dressing masculine, I was taking my identity away and not feeling secure in being who I true authentically am. And I think it was difficult because I think they wanted to understand, but they didn't know how to understand. I think
I hear
that's a lot of situations that happened when people are quite religious, certain people, because I think being brought up in certain religious aspects, like for me, I think even for myself, I noticed that there are certain things that you kind of have to follow, and there's guidelines. And I think it's difficult because you're taught one way of how religion is, but then you also have to acknowledge that like,
This is who I am.
yeah, acknowledge this is who you are, and also say, I can still follow my religion, I can still be Catholic, I can still be whatever religion, but I need to do this for myself, and I need to acknowledge who I am, because I don't want to turn around and die and then think of the what ifs. What if I did go out in a wig and makeup? What if I did do all those things and regret my life when I get old? I think I'd rather live authentically than not live at all.
I hear you. But I mean, I can imagine, like, so I'm also Catholic, right? So you saying, okay, you know what, I am Catholic, so I'm religious, but you know, I'm gonna be me, right? Church, how did church receive it?
I think it was a bit
Did they give you the eye?
difficult. It wasn't the eye from everyone, just most people. But I think it was weird because people knew me as Austin, and now I'm just Aurora. But I've never ever gone to church like in a wig and makeup. I've never done that. It's not something I feel comfortable doing, because I'd never want to put myself in a light where I can be not attacked, but I can get asked questions that would make me feel awkward and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I just go like in normal clothing, and I just go to church, and then I kind of just go home and all of that. I think for me it was difficult because I knew that as I was growing up and I wanted to do all these things, and like people make their first Holy Communion and they do all these things, and then you're sitting there and you see all the girls that are doing it, and they're wearing these big white dresses and they're dressing up and they're doing their hair. And I just looked at myself and I said, I wish I could do that, but I can't right now. It's not something that's in my control that I can actually do. So I think it was difficult acknowledging that, but also knowing that I kind of have to hide that part of myself.
That sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah, it can be uncomfortable because I also know who I am, and especially with a lot of my friends that have that know me well. Even when I've taken like one of my friends to like a church function, I think it's difficult because they know who I am and they see that I want to do makeup and I want to dress up, but it's just they almost see that part of me just like draw back a bit, and it's kind of sad because I do love my religion, but there's certain things I just have to accept, and I have to pick my battles when I do that, which is sometimes difficult to navigate, especially being so young, I think.
Sure, man. So then you get to a point where you're saying, you know what, I'm going to start acknowledging who I am. I'm tired of hiding my identity. What is the first thing that you did? Actually, before you answer that, so when you were, I'm assuming, like when you would wear your cousin's clothes, like when you would like cross-dress, I think that's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
Cross-dressing. Like, how did it make you feel? Like, did you get like excited or?
I did get really excited. It was really fun, and I remember sometimes we would have like these functions and they had these big like princess dresses, and I would wear them, and then I would love it and then kind of change out of them quickly before anyone knew, but like my cousins knew, and it was and they knew from a very early age, especially like my older cousins. They acknowledged it, but they kind of just supported me and loved me regardless, which was really nice. And I think it's sometimes difficult going into situations like that with family because it's something you can't necessarily like know the outcomes of and navigate if you don't know what the situations are going to be like, because things can change always. So I think for me, like one of the first times I went out with a wig and makeup and feminine clothing was it must have been 2022. I went to like a family function, and it was very weird. It was weird because I got a lot of looks, some good, some bad, but I think it
I
was
think others were thinking finally.
yes,
Others were thinking, don't do it.
no, yeah, and I think like some of my older cousins just looked and they gave me big smiles and they were happy and proud of me and they acknowledged me and they saw who the real Aurora is and they didn't see me as Austin, they saw me as Aurora, and I think that's something that was beautiful. But then it was also on the other side of things. I think more like some of my older family members didn't take it quite well because it's a very different generation to what we know now. So I think it's difficult because you also need to understand how they grew up and acknowledge certain things that weren't as seen as they are now and maybe taboo back then. But I think acknowledging that and not necessarily being offended and affected by it also helps because you're not put into a situation where you have to choose who you are over your family. You can have both and just acknowledge both aspects of it and also understand who they are and who you are and what you both have to bring to the table collectively.
Yeah. So talking about going to social events and now coming out and having come out in the new dressing, was it safe for you? Like going out, I'm talking about clubbing now. I'm talking about, hanging out with friends. Did you find it to be safe? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this, right? And I think yes, you might have a darker skin color, but you actually grew up in a more white society. More and more people that are transitioning or in the community coming from black societies are coming out and saying, we are being attacked, we've been raped, we've been this, because, are you, in your experience, did you ever have any of those challenges?
I think I did have some of those challenges, not necessarily from the very beginning, but kind of recently, like in the last year or two. And it wasn't necessarily attacks or anything like it. It was more of being put into uncomfortable situations that you can't control without knowing what's going on. Because by the time you realize what's going on, it's already happened. And it's scary because I think sometimes it's difficult because I know that I'm not as far along with my journey as I'd want to be. And it's difficult because I know some people might not take it well because I think in their mind, they might think that they're signing up for one thing and then something else is completely different. And I think for me, it's sometimes difficult because I can sense sometimes discrimination, and it's hard because a lot of the time, like my friends won't make me aware of it because they don't want to hurt my feelings, and others will. And then I think I appreciate those more because I can also know certain places that I can go and certain places that I can't go, and also knowing that.
Do you not find that limiting? You were saying?
So I think it's difficult because a lot of my friends acknowledge it and know, and even some family members that have gone out with me, they know what's going on, and they'll either tell me about it, which I appreciate more because they can either deflect the situation and remove me from uncomfortable situations that can occur, or I might not know what's going on because they won't tell me, but I'll know. And that's uncomfortable because I don't want to go out on the night and ruin other people's night, but also I also have to look out for myself and know there's certain places that I can go. Like a lot of places are very limited. Like there's maybe like one or two places that I just go to, not really anywhere else, because I know that those places are just the most accepting places. And that's just what comes with it, regardless if sometimes the environment and the crowd's a bit different. I'd rather go into that situation knowing that I won't be attacked or I won't be hurt. And I think I'd rather go into those environments knowing that than going into environments not knowing, and then something happens and it's out of my control, and then it's just something that.
So, and sorry to cut you there. It's just, the topic today, when I was thinking about it, right, I was thinking about the term inclusivity. Right, and right now you're talking about, you're now limited to going to only certain places. And what does inclusivity mean to you?
I think inclusivity for me means having at least a social group or community that you can fall back on and acknowledge and they can acknowledge who you are and not discriminate you. And I think inclusivity to me means just being open-minded and understanding people might be on different journeys, different paths, but we can kind of collectively come together to support and understand and acknowledge, regardless if it's not something that you've experienced, you can at least support and show your love through other things, even if it's not something you understand. You can at least be there just to be a shoulder to cry on, or just someone to listen and acknowledge what you're going through and understand some of your struggles. Even if you can't relate to those struggles, there might be certain aspects that you can relate to. Maybe feeling hate crimed or something like that, where you can acknowledge, okay, this person's going through that situation, which is different to my community, but also knowing that I've been through maybe bullying, or I've been through being discriminated, and there's a collective understanding of that and acknowledgement, and then from there you can support and help and guide.
Like if we understood better, if I'm getting what you're saying, but do you think we are there as a country?
I think we are definitely making a lot of steps and strides towards that. I think for me it's difficult because this country is so big, but also there's a lot of small communities that you don't even know about because it's not something that you've been taught at school, all those things. So it's also having to understand and grasp different communities and perspectives and aspects of people, and also acknowledging that although maybe we're not exactly where we need to be, we can get there because we can put it in the work, and we can have communications and talks and debates about being more inclusive and not judging someone from maybe the way that they look, or their sexuality or gender, or just maybe just understanding who that person is, accepting them and loving them regardless of what path they're on in life.
So the community, I don't know all the alphabets, LGBTQ.
Yes.
Plus minus.
Yes. That was actually really good.
Is it okay? Cool, I'm getting there. So I can see the community fighting, right? I can see them fighting to being included, to being accepted, to being, like I think when we spoke, is it's very important to the community to be identified in a way that you would like to be identified as. And I think it's this topic has created a lot of controversy, if you will, right? Because then the other group will say, no, but it must only be he or she, right?
Yes.
Why is this being identified a certain way very important to the community?
I think it's very important because of so much that we've gone through as a community, and also knowing, like for me being transgender, I think you go through life being put in a box of what you know in your mind you're not. So for me, going into life and situations, even from a young age, until I could choose myself to be transgender and acknowledge that, and understanding that that's who I am, and making people around me know what gender I acknowledge and want, and what pronouns. I think pronouns are so important.
So I said I meant pronouns.
Yes.
So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay. I'm getting there. Yeah, I meant pronouns.
I think pronouns are so important because a lot of us fight for it.
Yes.
And I think we deserve those pronouns to be respected, because like for me, growing up and having to live most of my life as a male, and then having to kind of be like grow into my adult life, and accepting myself and acknowledging that I am transgender, and now being called she, her, and the pronouns that I prefer, I think it's important because we go through so many trials and tribulations of being in the wrong gender and the wrong pronouns. So when we do finally come out and we do finally make light of who we want to be and the authenticity that's involved, I think it's important that people acknowledge that, because we fought so hard for it, especially with like schooling or with a lot of debates that might be around. I think it's controversial because it's not something that everyone understands, but at least
Because I think generally we'll always take the debate back to biology, right?
Yes.
I think the disconnect is that I think maybe from you guys' side, the referencing is not necessarily biological, because another one would say there's XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes,
Yes.
right? That generally defines what a gender of an individual is. And you are saying, we get that biologically I'm male
Yes.
or I'm female. You're not disregarding that. You're just saying, however, because of this, how I identify, I really would appreciate it if you also acknowledge that I had battles that you're not familiar with, that I believe it's good enough for you to refer to me as her and she.
Yes, I definitely think that's very important, because I think we've earned it so much, and I think it's special and it's important that people do refer to us like that, because it's something that we fought for so hard. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, because I think it'll create a better understanding and support system for a lot of young people in the LGBTQ community, and also having a support system, and also knowing that if people don't understand you, they can at least acknowledge you from a distance.
Yeah.
And
So you don't have to really, but at least try and understand it. Like
Yeah.
have the open mind to understand at least where the other person is coming from. So you transition. Are you in the process of transitioning?
Yes, I'm in the process of
What does it mean? So actually, what does it mean to be transgender?
So I think the meaning of transgender to me, because it's very subjective to every transgender person, but I think it's, for me, not identifying with the biological birth like gender that you were given. And I think it's important because I believe that it's not something that a person chooses, it's something that you're just born with. And I think for me, I just knew that my brain was wired differently. So it's not something that I would regret doing, because I know that it's just who I am. And I know sometimes people can experiment to kind of see what they like then as they reach adulthood. But I think once reaching that, you then have a more broader perspective and understanding of what it is to be transgender. And I think for me, it's not associating with the gender that was given to you at birth, but also acknowledging that your journey might be difficult, but there are steps to take to be authentically and truly yourself.
Without creating discomfort, so being transgender, does it mean you are transitioning?
It really depends. Like I said, it's very subjective, because some people might identify as being transgender and they might go through certain transitioning phases, but might not go all the way, because maybe they want to keep certain aspects of themselves to themselves and not go through all the pain that might come with that. But some people do go through the whole process and are really happy. And some people aren't too happy once they make a decision, because there is.
And it's not reversible, right? If
No,
you
it's
go
not.
through the process.
So if you go through the full process, and let's say you get gender reassignment surgery, which is basically changing your birth given genitalia into the opposite one that you identify with. Once that's done, I don't think there's any way that you can change it.
Yeah. So how long does the process take, like, just to transition? Is it a long process?
It can be a very long process, and a lot of the processes can really be delayed because of finance. I think that's for a lot of people.
Is it expensive?
It's very expensive. So I know that you first have to be on hormones for like a year before you can even do any like surgeries.
So what kind of hormones are these?
Hormone replacement therapy, and this is
What is that?
So let's say if I'm a transgender female, I would need to take the hormones that females take, like estrogen and all of those.
So
hormones.
what do they do?
So those hormones, they basically, depending on the duration that you take them for, they'll have certain effects, like maybe a decrease in hair growth. They can also have an increase in like your breast size.
So you'll grow boobs.
Yeah, they can also have a fat distribution in your overall body. So the smoothing of skin. There's so many different perspectives and facets to it. But if you are maybe a transgender male, you would need to take, because you already have like your female hormones already. So you'd need to take hormone blockers, which block your normal hormones that you produce, and then only then from there you can take your testosterone that would make you more male, and you kind of go through all the processes of being a male. A lot of transgender women face once they've gone through like the first like month or few months, they have a lot of mood swings because obviously your hormones are changing. So I think it's
I'm just like, okay, I'm seeing pictures in my head right now. I'm thinking, you are a male, right?
Yes.
Let's say for a good, no, I'm just not saying you.
Yes,
like
yes.
I'm just putting a scenario out there. So you grow up male for a good solid. Say you start this process at the age of 20, right? So let's say for a good 20 years, you don't know how confusing and awkward it is to be a female, right? And 20 years comes, you start taking this tablets or this therapy or whatever, and you start getting a sneak peek of how crazy women really are.
No,
Is it
yeah.
not scary?
I think it is scary because it's something that you've already gone through your puberty. So now having to kind of go through that again, it's basically just going through puberty twice. So it's sometimes difficult because like a lot of people feel like mood swings and all of those things are already going through their first puberty.
Yeah.
So now imagine going through it again and going through all of those like hormonal like changes. It's difficult.
So have you
because-
started with the
So I haven't started yet, but I do want to start them very, very, very soon. I'm kind of like in the process of like making plans to do that because there are things that you need to do before you start them. Like a lot of people, I would recommend people that want to transition, I think should go to therapy to kind of get their mind around things before they
love
start
it.
hormones, because once they start hormones and they don't have that support system and sometimes mental, like say, mental stability, if they go into that and they don't kind of know how to tackle things and they don't know what their support system will be like or a lot of different things that you need
like
to...
they need to be mentally ready for
mentally
it.
prepared, because if you aren't and you start the hormones, your hormones are going to be all over the place and you won't know what's going on. It'll be very overwhelming and stressful. So I recommend that people go to therapy and kind of have a baseline of what it is that you want and then acknowledging that and understanding what it is that you're going to go through, because I feel like that's very important, because if you don't go through that process of knowing what it all entails and then certain things come up and you're not prepared for it, it's sometimes stressful.
Yeah.
So
And I mean,
also-
talking about, earlier on you mentioned that, some people go through the process all the way and then they, they then realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done this. But if they started with therapy first, it would have given them an opportunity to actually think this through and know that, they're making a decision that is best for them, right? Because then you go through the process and...
Like you're not sure.
You're not sure, and then you regret it later, and then there's other problems created there, like your depression and.
No, 100%, and I totally agree with that. I think for me, it's good to kind of know what you're getting yourself into, because if you don't know, like a lot of what I would say is for people that are transgender, like going to therapy is important because you kind of need to see where it stems from in terms of, you obviously know that you are transgender. It's nothing that you can do to change it. But what was the turning point for you to kind of know that this is the path that I want to take? Not necessarily from a young age, but I'm going to say maybe from after you've finished puberty. So you kind of know, well, where's this stemming from? Why do I feel like this? What's going on with me? And I think it is important because you know exactly who you are and that's not going to change. But kind of knowing maybe... there's certain things that I've gone through that maybe are going to make it very difficult for me to do this. So I need to acknowledge, if I do this, do I have a strong support system? Am I aware of the social aspect and society and all the standards that you face being a male or
Yeah.
female on the spectrum. And if you don't understand those main perspective and ideas, you'll be lost because you won't know what to do, and it's very overwhelming because there's so many different things that are going on in your body. And I feel like with your support system, it's important to acknowledge, for them to acknowledge at least what you're going through, and know that for a few months it might be difficult because you're going through all these changes and your hormones all over the place. So if they're mindful of that and they understand that, it's better for them to help you and support you, because if they don't know what's going on, they won't know where this is stemming from, and it'll be difficult to navigate for them and yourself.
That's and I like what you're saying. So, and especially coming to the point of support, right? So there is also, just to maybe add a twist to what you just said here, right? So it's so like you're saying, when you were you knew at a young, very 5 to 9 years old, that this is actually, maybe you are confused, but you're getting an idea.
Yes.
Right? And I think I've watched a few episodes, like a few podcasts about this, where apparently, like, now in America, young kids, like, are going through the hormone replacements, right? And in my mind, I think I also kind of like agree a little bit, to just say, I don't know if a child is matured enough to make that kind of a decision, or a parent to make that kind of a decision for them, right? What is your thought on that?
This is a difficult one.
I can understand why, right? Because you knew when you were very young.
But I think for me, if I was raising a child in this day and age, I think I would be very accepting of it. And I would say, you can do all these things. But I think once you've fully matured, and maybe I would say at least 18, because then you at least, your brain's developed a bit more, and you kind of know, yourself more, and you know exactly what attributes you have to bring to the table, and you have a clear understanding of it, of exactly what this journey entails. So I would recommend that. I think it's important for myself, if I was a parent, to be understanding, and they can wear the clothes that they want to wear. They can dress up. They can do all those things. They can be called their pronouns that they want to be called. But I think making medical changes, for me, I think I would only start doing that from like 18, because then at least the child has chosen that themselves.
100%. And
it's not something that, if let's say they start doing by 8, 9, and they get to 18, they're like, oh no, I finished puberty. I don't know what's going on now. I'm unsure, because
I don't know, I was going through a phase, and now probably maybe
And that's why I think it's important. Like, for me, I knew that I was going to do this, but I think once I reached 18, I knew that this was 100% exactly what I wanted to do. So the decision wasn't made for me, and then I later regretted it. So I think being understanding of their pronouns when they're young is important, and acknowledging that, but also not making any drastic medical changes until they can choose that for themselves, and they fully happy and satisfied with their decisions that they've made, and they fully support and back themselves.
I hear you. All right, you know what? I'm gonna go in a little bit here, right? Because you're here, and I'm not really here speaking. I'm really just wanting to know, like, your own opinion. Just your. So we're getting. So, I can understand how uncomfortable it is to have to hide your, like you're saying, you guys fought very hard to a point where you can show up in a dress and look sexy and hello. You know what I mean? But then you also get people that come out and say, you know what, I'm gay, but then come back and then later on say, okay, no, I'm not gay. I think of recent have one of famous influencers who we've always known to be gay, got a BBL and everything. Yes. And now he comes back and he says, I found God, therefore I am straight. What is your opinion on those? Because if this is your identity, and this is how
you had felt from a very young age. I can't imagine you would want to revert back to a place or revert to a place that made you feel uncomfortable for the longest part of your life.
No, 100%. I think sometimes there can be, and a lot of the times I think because social media is such a big thing now, and it's such this, like, some people do things for views, and they do things to get attention and likes and all that, because it is important to do all of those things. I think, but there needs to be a baseline of where you can come across a certain way when you make decisions. For example, let's say you have an idea of what you want to do, and you've been through all of these difficult things, and now you decide that maybe your target audience isn't interested in this anymore. They like don't want to hear the same things over and over again. So now what is the next best
Oh,
thing?
you think they're doing it for clout?
I think it really depends, because sometimes it can be for clout and sometimes it can't. I think depending on the person, I feel like if you are the audience and you understand them very well, and you support them and you know them, why would they be making these decisions and not? But like, where does it stem from?
Yeah. Do you think it's natural for someone to revert to being straight again?
I think I don't even know how to answer that question. I think it's difficult because you've been through so much and you've now experienced all your desires with, the genders that you want to experience and all of those things, and your romantic and intimacy and all of those things. Why would you revert back to a place, like you said, that you felt uncomfortable in, and you felt you were being judged and you weren't yourself in? Why would you go back to that
Yeah.
and just diminish your sparkle and light? What causes them to do that? There must be something. There must be like a turning point where they've decided, maybe I don't feel like this. And that's difficult, because I think once everyone knows about this and people are accepting of this, I'm not specifically talking about the transgender community.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in general.
Generally, yeah.
And now you've changed. It's also difficult for people to now navigate this, because you've been a certain way for so long, and now you're just another way. And I think it's difficult to understand, because people want to support and be respected and loving.
Yeah, and I mean, consider that you're fighting so hard to get the acceptance and the understanding,
Yeah, and
and
now
to
that you've
educate
got it,
people.
why would
So
you-
you then when you guys are making that progress, then somebody's like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be part of the community anymore." It's like giving the people that you're needing buy-in from all the more reason why they
Yes.
should not,
And you're not taking your power back because you're giving it to everyone else.
yeah.
It's almost like a situation when you're young and you
Yeah.
start swimming, and you
Yeah.
have these little like armbands that you start swimming with, and you start swimming until you swim without them. And now you've made all the progress, and everyone's like cheering you on from the sidelines, and now you've just decided, I'm gonna put them back on again, and I'm just gonna stop what I'm doing. And I think it's difficult, because it's like, where did this come from? What happened? Why have you changed? I think it's difficult to navigate for a lot of people. And sometimes I think people need to be respecting that person's decisions. But I also think with that, I do agree that conversations and discussions can be asked to that person.
Yeah.
Because they've been one way for so long, now they're different.
Yeah,
way.
you do what you to understand a lot better.
And I think because those questions are being asked, I feel like that person needs to be understanding that those questions have to be asked. Because
Yeah.
they need to know what's going on.
Yeah, because it does become confusing. I want to go into like your day to day now.
Yes.
You are Aurora. You are Hey now. Like, how has it been like since you've like, okay, I know we touched a little bit about you know, the acceptance and this and then I think with time you eventually probably got like the acceptance and the support, whatever. How's that been?
I think it's been really, really, really amazing. I think having such a good support system, and I always believe that quality over quantity. Because for me, I'd rather have 2 or 4 close best friends or really, really close friends than having a lot of people that accept me for me, but they won't be there for the difficult times and through my struggles and through my battles and listen to conversations that need to be talked about and listen to battles that I'm going through and struggles. I think by having a close-knit community of friends and family members that support you, it's so important. I think for me, I believe that every person can choose their family. I believe that your family doesn't have to be your blood family. It can be friends that you've known forever. It can be family friends. It can be anyone. Someone that really wants to invest in you and your time and acknowledge where you are in life, understand you, and sympathize with the things that you've been through and struggles, and acknowledge who you are, and also know that, you know, this person is the way that they are because of everything that they've gone through. And I understand them, I accept them, and I want only the best for them, and I want them to feel loved and guided and never feel alone like they have maybe before. I think that's so important.
100%. I'm with you there. But you're enjoying it, yeah? You're
I'm
enjoying
loving it.
You're
I'm
feeling
loving
like
it.
you're yourself now.
Yeah, and I think by having 2 really, really close, like, best friends, I think it's really important. And one of them is a family member and one of them is just a best friend. And I think it's important because it just makes me feel so seen and loved, because I've kind of had to hide this huge part of my life and this huge aspect. And I think for
How
a
long
long
did you hide it?
I think it was quite difficult to hide it.
Yeah, but
I
like just
think-
you thinking you're hiding it.
I think I tried to hide it for a long time, even throughout high school. I think I only really started, I wouldn't say accepting myself, but acknowledging who I am and coming out and presenting myself the way I'd want to be presented and treated. And I think for me, I only really did that, I'm going to say from 17, 18. I think that's the turning point of when I decided that I'm going to step into Aurora. And
And why Aurora?
So the name actually is such beautiful meaning. One of my favorite Disney princesses is Princess Aurora, Sleeping Beauty. And there's also like the beautiful northern Aurora Borealis light that come when they come. And I think it's beautiful because the sky is like pitch black, and then you have all these different colors and lights, and it's like this transformative, beautiful like sight to see. And I feel like that's encapsulates me so much. And there's this Greek goddess, Aurora, and her tears are like the sun dew that drops, and new dawn begins. And the meaning of Aurora also is dawn, and that's new life, rebirth, and just transformation. And I think Aurora encapsulates me because the first like 2 letters on my name, Austin and Aurora, also like awe and awe. It's just perfect because I still kept a little bit of my old self while I moved into my new self, which is beautiful.
That's wonderful, man.
Yeah.
Oh, so happy for you.
Thank you.
I am so happy for you, man. So you're gonna go through the process of transitioning.
I would love to. I think that's something I would love to do. It's the biggest thing that I have on my bucket list for life. I think that's the main goal, and I do want to take the process of doing it slowly, where I'm not overwhelmed, and I can also have leeway of not being so stressed about it. I think if I take my time and I do it slowly and gradually, it's more understandable for people to also understand, but also for me to accept this new part that I'm changing about myself, but still keeping myself the same.
Yeah. What is the one thing that you think we still need to learn about your community, or like, and I want you to make it personal to you. What, like, maybe let's say, what is the one thing that you think people that are not in the community should take seriously in learning?
I think people in the community and people that are not in the community should take, I think, specifically with the community, what we've gone through. And I think we fought so hard to be here, and we deserve the right to be in modern day society, especially for the transgender community. I think it's important that we've gone through all the processes, and we've gone through the struggles, and we've gone through all the difficult narratives that people put against us, and all the societal beauty standards, and all of the things that we had to learn about ourselves and acknowledge, and uncomfortable situations and the stigmas that come with that. And I think people that aren't in the community need to learn, I think, acceptance in terms of a good, clear understanding of the people in the community, and also understanding that that person's life decisions are the exact same life decisions that you would make when you choose to do something, when you choose to maybe pick out a car, or you choose to wear the certain clothes that you wear, because that's something that you want to do. And I think as someone that's not in the community, it's the exact same thought process, although it's maybe something much bigger than that. I think the community is so sacred to us because it's something that we fought for. I think for people not in the community, I think just being open-minded and having a loving approach, and not coming from your, like, the how do I say this? Not coming from a political stance or a religious stance. I think it's important that you just come from an open-minded stance, and then from there you can still keep everything that you believe as people not in the community, and the people in the community can also believe what they believe.
Yeah,
but I think
it needs to be okay for us to not believe in the same things. Do you think that we, the people that are not in the community, don't recognize the fight you fought?
I think most people, I think a lot of people do, but I think it's difficult because they can't relate it to their day-to-day life. So
like when you guys, maybe let's just, when you talking about, you know what, I deserve to be referred to as she or her, and this is educational, this is just from an educative purpose, right? You saying I have fought hard. Maybe what I want to say is, maybe like let me put this question like this: what fight did you fight? So like the next person who's watching, who is not in the community, can understand the fight, so that it, I guess, can be, the reception can be better. Because I as you're talking, and I'm also like, because I'm also outside the community, that's why I'm asking you, do you think that your fight is not acknowledged, right? And I guess I think maybe it's one thing to hear you saying, you know, after all that, you know what, we fought, but if somebody doesn't really know what you fought, it becomes very difficult for them to be open-minded or to understand a bit better.
I think for people in the community, like, we fought to have laws in place that people can have same-sex marriages. Like, that's important. Having, you know, rules set in place that there's certain situations that we don't have to be put into by being stigmatized and being discriminated. There's certain aspects that I think are important for people not in the community to understand how much, I think especially for like a transgender person, how much bullying really goes into that, and anywhere in the community. But I think especially for transgender people, I think it's difficult because you know yourself that you are not like the biological gender that you were born with, but also having to accept children calling you names at school, and admiring people from afar but knowing that you can't be in those experiences, like admiring maybe the gender that you want to be associated with, and admiring girls or guys in your school that are doing things that you can't do because you just aren't quite there yet, and it's difficult. Because even sometimes, for example, like I think for people that have like fully transitioned or still in the process of transitioning but are in transition process, I think like gender neutral bathrooms are important. But I think there's a
What
lot
is
of
gender neutral?
so gender neutral bathrooms. It really depends on like the place in
What
the
is
world.
that?
So it's so there's certain bathrooms like, but you can find them in certain places where it's like anyone can go in that bathroom, but it's just it's usually for places that are more inclusive. So someone, for example,
So you've got your male, female,
and
and
then like a gender neutral bathroom.
Okay.
So like a transgender person might, like for example, like for me, like I wouldn't go like this into the male bathroom because it's scary because you don't know what to expect. So for me, like having like a gender neutral bathroom, or like for me, it's sometimes difficult because like
yeah. So which bathroom do you go to?
so it really depends. Like sometimes I'll just go to like the disabled bathroom because I just know that
Yeah.
I know that that's
safe.
safe.
Yeah.
You know, and then I know that it's just myself in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But let's say if I'm on a night out and I'm with my friends, other girls, like obviously, like, if I'm not bringing a wig and makeup, I'm not going to go into the girls' bathroom because I just wouldn't do that because I feel like that's just not something that I would do for myself because I just feel like sometimes
It's gonna be awkward.
Yeah, awkward, and it can make people feel uncomfortable. But I know that I still deserve my right to be there. But it's just like the time and place for it to happen. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm like dressed like this, and I think if I was like, let's say there's this club that I go to Babylon, like there I would go into the females' bathroom with my friends, and I'd literally just use the bathroom and go out. It wouldn't be like a big deal because it's not. I'm not like encroaching on other people's spaces because I'm not doing anything like violent. I'm not doing anything that's gonna put people in a bad light or make people feel uncomfortable.
If you were to have a wish, would you like, because you identify as a woman, right? So would you think it would be fair for you to be in a bathroom with women and women being okay with it? If it was yeah.
I think it's something that I'd love. That I think as in general, I feel like we need to work towards. But I do believe that this is just my personal opinion, but I
nails
think
are gorgeous.
Thank you, thank you. I think for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable as a woman if I was a woman, like going into like. If I'm in a female bathroom and then there's this person that's not, there's just like, for example, maybe not a transgender person, like maybe like a male that's coming into the bathroom, just like as a male, nothing, not just a male, just as a male. I feel like that would be very uncomfortable because like then you don't know what can happen. That's different. But having someone that you can see is not associating with their gender, and you can see that they look like a possible like female. It's not like if I looked like a male and I looked, I was like built and I didn't look like I could pass for a female, I wouldn't go into the female's bathroom like that. I wouldn't put myself in an awkward, uncomfortable situation for females and for myself. I feel like I've only like started doing it when I kind of had to find the right clothes and makeup and wig and all of those things to make myself look like a female. So it's not something that females can pick up on and judge me.
Yeah, but I mean, would it be your wish, like if in the best world, in a best,
I think it would.
Yeah,
I think it would. I think because we fought so hard as transgender people, I feel like I'm not gonna say I think we do deserve the right to be in those bathrooms with rules set in place.
Okay, what do you mean?
I think,
and why do you think it's important for the rules to be set in place?
I think rules are important to have set in place because, for example, if I just go into the girls' bathroom and I'm causing fights and I'm doing bad things and I'm making issues, like then then why am I in the bathroom? Like rather just find like a general neutral bathroom where you can just go and be okay. Like I think the issue comes in when there's situations like uncomfortable situations like violence or maybe just your violence and uncomfortable, difficult things that might occur. But I don't think that happens for the average trans person. I think that we just go into the bathrooms, we use the bathroom and we go. Like it's not something that we would like go into not knowing what could happen. Like I wouldn't go into a female's bathroom not knowing that I could maybe be judged, or like there could be certain things like, you know, but I wouldn't go into there not knowing. I think that's something that's important.
I hear you. Yeah. So as something just clicked in my head, like there's a lady called Candace Owens, right? I don't know if you know about her. You can check her out. So she's pushing this narrative to say that people in your community actually have a mental. She's relating like the transitioning or being gay or being lesbian as a mental disorder. What do you have to say about that?
I think it's difficult because there's a lot that can come with that. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. I think
It's just your opinion.
For example, I know that with a lot of transgender people, we face like gender dysphoria. And that's basically where we don't associate with the gender that we're born in. So we feel a bit uncomfortable. And it also comes with like body dysmorphia. Like anyone faces body dysmorphia.
Are those mental disorders or how would you...
I wouldn't say that they're mental. I just think if for example you went to a psychologist and you looked into psychology, there are actually like with gender dysphoria and body dysmorphia that comes in with being transgender. There are research and studies shown that can relate to that being an actual thing that's definitely possible, which can associate people that are transgender with being transgender. Like it's actually a thing where it's like a research is being done, and like there's certain debates. I haven't looked into it too much. Where I think there was a research that I saw on the internet a few months ago or a while back, where some people believe that there are brain scans where I don't know if this is all true. I'm just saying,
like we don't know about
but
the
maybe there's more
source.
research that needs to be done, but there was brain scans that say certain brain activity with specifically transgender people can relate to. So, for example, like with transgender female, like certain brain activity and stuff can relate to female like brain activity and wavelengths and all of those things, which show that like the way that your brain functions is like it's basically like how a female's brain functions.
Yeah.
So it's
Which
not,
I mean, for me that makes sense,
yes.
right?
Yeah, and like actual like pictures and brain scans that are involved. So then that to me would like prove scientifically that it's like that we are like transgender, you know? You know?
Yeah. And like even biologically, right? Do you think that maybe there was like imbalances in hormones that actually, because I'm just trying to understand where the element of being straight or being in the community stems from.
I think being in the community and straight, I think hormones can be a small aspect of it, like, you know, like maybe having more testosterone or more estrogen or more something like that. But I think hormones can definitely play a factor. But I think with sexual orientation and gender orientation, I think it's biological.
You think so?
But sometimes people can choose it. Certain people. It's not a huge amount.
Do you think you chose it, or do you think?
I don't think I chose it. I think it was something that I just always knew. Like I just always knew that it like being male was not something that I considered myself as, and it was difficult because I knew that I wouldn't be happy. For example, like, let's say, having like kids as a dad or
I can,
because it's like weird or just, you know, like playing soccer and being very masculine, having all those like
Did
fraternity
you play
things.
soccer?
I did, but I was just trying to fit into the crowd. And
How did that work out for
I
you?
mean, like I couldn't. I was just the goalie. Like I was away from everyone, so that was my thing.
Yeah.
I could defend. I could get the ball, and it was fun because while everyone was running on the field, getting sweat, all that testosterone, I was just sitting there, standing there, minding my own business, waiting for the ball, which was very occasionally, just jumping, getting the ball, and just looking pretty. That was my thing. But I mean, yeah, I knew, and I chose that because I wasn't worried about everyone else because I only look out for my boy, and I chose myself.
I love that. I love that. Was there any part of the interview that you felt was uncomfortable?
No, not at all. I think I learned a lot from this interview, and I feel like there's a lot of awareness that can be created, and a lot of different topics and debates need to be discussed in order for us as a community and country to progress.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and a huge, huge thank you to Aurora for sharing her story with us. Inclusivity is a big topic, and we hope this episode helps shine some light on the importance of understanding and being open-minded in as far as this topic is concerned. Please make sure you stay tuned for more of our Varied Views episodes, and don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss an update, like our video, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Have a great weekend, and peace be with you.
1, 2,